Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host Shwin and Prez, and this is episode 406. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Prez. That is at _Presidente on Twitter /X. Prez, how are you doing? Prez, you're muted.
Unmuting here. My bad. I'm doing great. I thought your little thing on your screen said waiting for the slap. I was like, what did I miss here?
Yeah, I am waiting for the slap. It's like when you make a slap bet with
Wake
somebody.
wake me up from this living nightmare. My God.
Yeah, that's probably an accurate description of how I feel about this NBA Finals. And we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements first, because that Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at Strickland on Instagram. We're posting all kinds of new content on there. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. Just a link that'll take you to the merchandise store. You can find all kinds of cool stuff on there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier. That gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Poses, our newest podcast that's hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll My Soul Pod by Ranking Rabbit Mixing Morning. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Mendel, one of the best in the business. And now you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is our NFL podcast that is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos. There are further tiers. There's $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits, like listening in on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. This would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. I actually wanted to start not talking about the NBA Finals. I wanted to ask you a draft question. Right in your wheelhouse. Just wanted to make sure you feel right at home.
This is how I start all my mornings.
Yeah. Let me just get some, and I want the people to know I have not asked Prez about anything related to the draft other than, is Nikola Topic, is his entire thing just dribble penetration? So that's the only thing I've asked Prez about.
And let the record show, I haven't sent Shwin any draft videos in like at least 2 months. So we're trying to respect each other's personal space here. This is what you all should aspire to be.
So I want to ask you a question. Is Tyler Kolek the best passer in this draft?
That's a very good question. As a known
okay. And does he have the ball handling and ability to draw help to leverage that passing ability?
My answers would be probably yes and no. So there's a couple of very good passers in the NBA, and I mean in this draft, and a couple who, by the time they get to Tyler's age, he's almost 24. He's like around Deuce and Rokas's age. That they'll probably be like that. Guys like Isaiah Collier, who didn't really showcase his passing at USC because their offense was a shit show, but his passing was crazy in high school. There's a couple of guys, even some bigs, but Kolek probably takes the cake. I mean, this is a guy who had an 18 assist game in college. He's like a pick and roll maestro. And what makes it crazier is he doesn't have really the ability to just draw two and bend the defense. Like, he's not unless he's facing a horrid fucking defender, he's not going to blow by anybody one-on-one. And his handle isn't like crazy ankle breakers to create space or anything like that. So this is all just like him pretty much threading needles. Which makes it kind of more impressive, and that's why it's my favorite part about watching him play and watching his highlights is his passing is very special. But yeah, it's not because of any of his gravity. So in the NBA as a backup point guard, will he be able to pass without that gravity? I think so in some ways, but not as much as he could, obviously, if he had the gravity. So he's kind of an interesting guy in that respect.
Do you think he makes sense on the Knicks at all? Because he's also not like a big guard. So kind of the guy you're describing sounds like somebody you'd want to play next to an initiator, but he's not a big guy, so you'd almost like him, like, if you're like Dallas, right? You'd be like, well, we could play him next to Luka because Luka's a big guard or big initiator, whatever the fuck he is. Luka's Luka. Or like on Boston, right? Because you have Tatum or whatever. Does he make sense on this Knicks roster, or do you think that it's kind of like redundant, duplicative, whatever you want to call it?
I was talking to a friend of the pod and owner of the only other Knicks draft podcast in the world, Chris Parsiainen, about this. Chris is a big Kolek fan, and I am not. I don't think he's a good fit because I don't think any guard who's 6'2" with a 6'3" wingspan and can't blow by people is a good fit. Just in terms of upside, I think if we picked him, he'd be fine as like a end of the bench guard. I just would rather not use my pick on somebody who doesn't have that kind of upside. And then I've seen a lot of people, he's a great shooter off the catch and he has an amazing floater. And some people are like, oh, he showed more comfort shooting pull-ups. I didn't really see that. His pull-ups, 3-point shooting stats, he took them a little bit, but it wasn't particularly good. I think it was like in the 20s. And to me, he looks visibly uncomfortable taking that. And I'm like, if you're 6'2" with a 6'3" wingspan and you can't blow by guys, like you better be able to fucking pull that thing, right? Like you got to have something extremely special in your scoring arsenal, right? Like if you're looking at backup point guards who are tiny, I'm thinking like TJ McConnell, who shoots like infinity % from mid range. Fucking Peyton Pritchard, right? Is like
a Nazi.
Yes, I'm not where I was gonna go with it, but also can shoot the shit out of the ball from very far, and has a pretty good first step and can get by guys. Nowhere near the passer Kolek is, but so I don't know. I don't see it with him. I talked to Chris about it, and Chris said, and I quote, "Fuck the measurables." It's a little bit of a vibes based thing if you like Kolek, which I understand because you're talking to a guy who was a really good player on very good teams for 2 years in a row, great advanced stats, all that stuff. I just don't think it fits what the Knicks go for in terms of like everybody has long arms or is really strong and is a two-way player. And he's not like a low effort defender or anything. It's just like when you're the level of athlete he is and that size, like you're just not going to be good at defense, full stop.
Is he an ethical hooper?
He is a very ethical hooper. He's not out here like flopping around and doing shit like that. He talks a lot of shit. He's definitely a dog. So he's got that going for him in the vibes department, which is another reason I think people are big fans of him. But I don't know, man. He played with two other players who are definitely NBA players. One is Cam Jones, who I thought should have been in the draft. He decided to return to school, probably because Kolek was graduating and he could get more initiator reps. And he's a much better prospect than Tyler Kolek. He would have been probably my favorite target for the Knicks. And then a big who's in this draft, Oso Ighodaro, who's like on offense and NBA caliber.
That's a name.
It's a name. He has like a Hartenstein level floater and he's decently athletic. So he was a fantastic NBA level pick and roll partner for Kolek. So he was also playing with NBA caliber guys while running this offense. So that also helped. Not like saying that he had some like Mickey Mouse stats or anything like that. I'm just saying like that. Not every college point guard has that. So that also helped.
Word. All right. Another guy I wanted to ask you about. I know you're not fond of him. I know Stacy likes him. Kel'el Ware. Is your issue with him that he lacks feel? Do you think he is a reactive player more than a proactive defender? Let's call it.
I don't not like Ware. I'm just not like some people are super into him, and I get it, to be honest. Apparently, he's been also killing in like interviews and stuff like that, which has also helped. He
You know who else
probably
famously killed in interviews?
oh god,
Willie Cauley-Stein.
he did. I remember he was high on my board. We won't talk about it today.
Larry Bird called him $100 million player, if I remember correctly.
That's wild. That's hilarious. It's also hilarious if you think of like the times we've heard Willie Cauley-Stein speak. Now he's cooking in Puerto Rico.
Is he? Good for him.
Yeah. Him and a couple other players. So Ware he was coached by Mike Woodson, always a good sign. So let's start there. East remains big. So Kel'el Ware also big, larger standing reach than Mitchell Robinson. He's a big dude. He's a long dude. And a lot of people whose opinions I really respect, including Stacy, friend of the pod.
You respect Stacy's opinion? What's going on? You feeling all right?
When he's not making fucking puns, yes, I respect his opinion. Matt Powers at DraftPow on Twitter, really smart dude. Considers Ware a pretty good prospect. Some other draft people have him like clear lottery.
Is he a dart? Is Chuck?
I don't know. Dart? I gotta see. I'm not sure where Chuck is on him. Chuck is definitely up there in the people's whose opinions I like to steal list. And
except when he said that Terrence Mann was better than Emmanuel Quickly.
Oh yeah, that's grounds for banning him from the pod for a number of months, if not years.
Many moons.
Yes, many moons. And so Ware is like, I don't know. To me, my issue is he doesn't come off to me as particularly elite at anything, except for just his measurables. Like he takes threes, but he's not,
good at it.
Well, he shot like 40%, but it's a small sample, and it looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look bad. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a good shooter. It also wouldn't surprise me if he was a shitty shooter and his coach was like, no, stop that. You're huge. So I could see that going either way. On defense, he's huge and he impacts the game, but he also kind of doesn't know where to be. I mean, that's not uncommon, right? For like 20-year-old big men. So like it's hard to ding him too much for that.
And he just turned 20, by the way. So he's fucking young for his age, for like his class. He's young.
Yeah, he's a very young sophomore. Was highly rated, top 3 coming in. Had a bad freshman season at Oregon.
He was a projected lotto guy before his freshman year. I mean, I know those are like very, very early mocks, but he was considered in that type of.
Oh, he was in top 5s for sure. Like not even lotto. Like he was in a good draft, mind you. Like the one we just had. So he was up there because he was like a unicorn prospect, right? This guy is 7'1", can jump. Is not plotting and can shoot. Like, yeah, I definitely see the vision, at least coming into college. None of that was realized in Oregon. But he's not particularly strong. He's kind of doofy when he gets the ball in the post. Doesn't really do much in the way of passing. Great at like catching alley-oops and finishing them and putbacks because he's gigantic. But I don't know. Like, if you ask me what's his best skill, I'm like catching alley-oops, I guess. And
but that's the thing. That matters.
It matters.
Because especially when we fucking watch Hartenstein and he's like, look, he's many things, many great things. A dynamic,
a vertical spacer is not one of them.
Yeah, not one of them. Just generally scoring around the rim is very much an adventure for Isaiah Hartenstein.
It's an adventure for Ware too. Like sometimes he's big enough that he can just get some easy baby hooks, but he doesn't look like a guy who has touch to me. He kind of looks like a big man who's trying to have it but doesn't have it. the most comfortable shot for him, to me, outside of dunks, is he actually has a pretty respectable looking mid-range jumper. The numbers are pretty solid, like 40%, I think, which is pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good. So like if you want to argue, like, you know, he'll get touch once he gets stronger, especially. That's what you would point to. The main thing, if I'm like someone like Stacy, who I've talked to about Ware, the good argument is like this is a guy who he's young, right? You could get him much stronger, right? We've seen it with Mitch and how much that changes the game for guys like that, and that would improve his ability to near the hoop, which is already solid, and you could tweak his jumper a little bit, right? It's not talking about you're not talking about a brand new jumper, and then all of a sudden you have a stretch five who's not some like, you know, you're not talking about some undersized five here. You're talking about a guy who's 7'1", and we know the impact that could have, right? You look at guys like Miles Turner, Brook Lopez, whatever. Kristaps obviously is like the best version of that. So I see the vision. I'm just like, I don't know, man. He's not. Other bigs in the draft to me are extremely good at certain things, and to me, he doesn't have that skill to hang his hat on. But if we picked him, I'd be like, yeah, this motherfucker's so well-rounded, so versatile, potential stretch five. We'll get him right. We'll get him in the weight room like we did quickly and Mitch. So I wouldn't mind it. But that's the reason he's rising on draft boards, right? Like he's less raw than some of the other bigs. Not 300 pounds like Edie, not undersized like Deron Holmes, and also
he could switch
Iguodala.
out? You think he can switch on the guards and stuff?
For like 1 second, I don't think he can slide that well, but he's so big that if he has the right technique, he could just be far enough away but still within reach to bother them. So from that sense, he could. But I don't think this is like a Mitch situation where like young Mitch could switch onto guards and block their 3-pointers, right? Like I don't think he's anywhere near that.
Is Ware? I mean, is like we know that let's hope and assume Isaiah Hartenstein's coming back. We also know Mitchell Robinson has serious injury issues, and we can't really depend on him to get through a full season without an injury, obviously, unfortunately. Yeah. Is Ware somebody that you would be like, you could see the Knicks being like, well, I mean, one, like you mentioned, he's been coached by Mike Woodson, so if Woodson gave him a good report, do you think this is somebody that the Knicks could be like, okay, he's not ready to really be in our rotation right now, but that's okay because we don't need to have, the world has moved on from the need to have Jericho Sims on this roster. He can sit and observe and play G League and develop. And yes, if and when Mitch gets hurt, if Precious is not here, this is a player that we think in time we can develop and we can turn into a competent and capable backup level 5, maybe more one day. Is that something that you could see the Knicks being interested in, or do you just not see him being good enough at the things the Knicks value from that position?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if they picked him, it'd be for that exact reason. And he's like putting aside what is good for him, or not what is good for him, like what I think the Knicks need in the draft, right? In terms of upside and all that, like the Knicks are probably the ideal developmental context for him. That's the other reason I think people like Stacey like him, because you wouldn't be depending on him here, but he could still learn. We're clearly really fucking good at developing bigs. Track record immaculate out here, with exception of Jericho Sims, RIP. So it would be a good fit for him in that sense.